Hi guys, it's me, Ashley, and I promised you guys that I was going to do a part 2 of my introduction of myself. So here's part 2. So if you want, just keep on watching. So anywho, I forgot where I left off with part 1, but as far as part 2, I have some questions that I wrote down so I can just keep it simple and under 20 minutes and straight to the point. Well, first off, like I said before, I'm originally from Philadelphia and I live in Jacksonville, Florida. I live in Jacksonville. Well, I moved here, like I said, 2 years ago, and moving here it wasn't hard. It was like a blessing. I knew it was time for me, and at the time he was my fiance. We weren't married. For us, we needed a change. We needed something to change. We just needed a change. Both of us needed a change. And I felt like if we didn't do it then, we would have been in the same situation that we were in when we were in Philly. We were living with my mom, and it was just a whole bunch of stuff. So long story short, my husband accepted a job down here, and I was like, at first I was like, I do not want to move down here. So I was like, blah, blah, blah. So I was like, all right. He asked me what did I think about it, and I was just like, I don't know yet. So I hung up. He called me on the phone, and then I hung up. And I remember after I hung up, it was right around January, right before my birthday, and I just thought about it, and I was like, you know what, fuck it. Excuse my language, but I was like, fuck it, let's just do it. So I called him back, and I was like, take the job. So he took the job, and so forth and so forth. We moved here. But when I moved here, it was really, really scary and difficult because I'm like, I don't have anybody. I don't have any family down here. I don't have any friends. I had nobody. He moved here before me and myself and the kids. My husband was already down here 5 months prior to us moving down because I had to wait for my daughter to finish school. And, that's when we decided to move. And I was working, hustling, trying to, save some money. So when I came down here, I could add things. So that was the whole point. But it was really scary when it really happened and I was on the plane and all my stuff was going and packed. It was just like, I was like, dang, I just really just did this. And, I'm not saying that I'm afraid to do things, because sometimes I can be spontaneous and do things in the spirit of the moment and not think about the future. But I was like, this is happening for a reason, because I asked for it. I prayed to God that God, I need a different situation. So long story short, that's I moved down here, but it's still in the process of me moving here. My husband and I, like I said, at the time we weren't married, we still had some unresolved issues that him and I never talked about. So I was still angry in a lot of the things that my husband and I were what we were going through. And I was like, okay, I moved on from a lot of things. Like I said, I'll talk about that in another video later down the line. But I had moved on from a lot of things, but it was still some things that were like still in me, like I didn't let out and relieve and let him know like how I really felt. So we went through that process, and that took us a while to get through it. But on another note, we were dealing with my son, and I remember my mom was down here. She helped, she stayed for 2 weeks to help, us get settled in and everything. And my son was like, I was like, I knew for a while that something was different about my son. I didn't know what it was. I started speculating autism, and I say it like that because I had a friend of mine talking about autism, and I was just like, I noticed some of those things like, my son is doing, like, just look. And I started looking it up, and like that's the worst thing you can do is look up things on the internet and not go see someone professional. So I was just like, something's not right. So my son had a doctor's appointment, and the doctor was like, asking a regular question. Excuse me, my nose is running. Told you my allergies. sorry. Ugh. Yeah, his pediatrician, she asked, the regular questions, but I went to her and said, I have a little concern. I was like, I don't feel like, my son is progressing like my daughter did. And I was like, I know every child is not the same, but my daughter was walking, well, he was walking. Elijah was actually walking, but he wasn't talking. He was like babbling, like all he would say was dad, 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 dad. And then at some point he knew to respond to certain things, and then like he stopped. So when we came down here, I just kind of laid the bomb on my mom and my husband. My husband looked at me like I was crazy. Both of my parents, both my mom and my husband looked at me like I was just saying stuff, like, because they always think like I just say things to say things, but I was not saying this. I was like, something is wrong with our son. And everybody had their own opinion, everybody felt differently, but I'm the mother and I birthed my child, and I knew instantly something was different. So it was my motherly intuition, like I knew. So long story short, I went, my mom was like, oh, he's fine, he can do this and that, and I was like, no mom, it's not that. So, I let my mom say her piece, and then my husband was like, he's just going to be a late talker, he's fine, and I was like, no, he's not fine. So I was actually home with him, and I started noticing a lot of things. Like, my son was like, he liked spinning things, like spinning objects, like the fan. He would look at the fan a lot. He would cast out, like, like out of, look into those long stairs and stuff like that. He did, he did things like that. Sorry, what else did Elijah do? Line up things, spin around in circles, flap his hands. He's a toe walker. And he wasn't like, well, of course he didn't have any social skills because we didn't know anybody. And I went in a depression where I was like, I didn't go out anywhere. I didn't even walk out this apartment. Like, I was just like, I did what I had to do. Like, I went grocery shopping. If I had to go grocery shopping, that was it. Or wash clothes, whatever. But I never like did too much with him. And that was kind of hurting him too. But at the same time, it was still something wrong. So, excuse me, we went to the doctors, and the doctor said that, I told him what was the concerns and what his previous pediatrician explained to me, like, get him tested for autism. So that just stuck in my head. When she said that, that was just like a total red flag. So we went, I did everything that I had to do to get my son all the help that he needed, to progress. And if you're a good parent, you never want to see your children suffer. I didn't want to see my son in any harm. I wanted the best for him, just like I want the best for my daughter, which I'll talk about in a few minutes. And it was just a long process. It was a 1.5 years, almost 2-year process. A family, like, he was actually, how old was he? When we finally got him into the doctors, he was actually 2. So yes, treatment is always, the earlier you do it, the better they are, and the better they'll be, and progress. It's not gonna go, some things don't go away, but some things, still stay, when it comes to children with disabilities. And I pray every day that my son is cured. I just pray, like, his mind is, he thinks differently. He's not, I don't look at him like he's special or he's stupid or anything like that. I look at him like he's his own individual and he has his own way. But anyway, I went through the whole process. I went through early intervention services because our insurance company denied speech therapy, which most of them do. So that, my son really needed speech therapy. That was the main thing he really needed. And he needed he needed a lot of things. So the more we started doing, someone came to our house and she was really, really great. Everything they told me to do, I did it, and I did it more, and I did it, and I pounded in my family's head like crazy. They thought I was crazy. They just thought, like, yo, you just relax. No, this is what it has to be, and that's what it meant. That's what I meant, and I meant, like, whatever we had to do, I put it in their heads. I had to talk to my daughter about it. It was rough on all of us as a family. So what is it, last November, my son had his official evaluation. And it was a lot. I'm sorry, guys. It was so much. Like, and me and my husband were not getting along. And I'm just gonna be real. We had, just got married, and we weren't getting along. We weren't even on. I didn't even know we were gonna make it. Honestly, I thought I was gonna leave. He was going. It was just a mess. And I'll talk about that some other time. But yeah, we were like not on good terms, and we were kind of arguing a lot, going backwards and forth. And I knew that wasn't the best for our son. So when we sat down with the doctor, he gave it to us 100. It was like the paper. I had like this much paper. They took it. It was just like almost like my son was a criminal. And if any parents are out there that have special need children, that they know what I'm talking about. Like, when you get evaluations, it's like they're almost like prisoners because they take pictures of them. So, and then after the evaluation, I'm skipping through all of this because there's a lot. I'll talk more about it, as time goes on. But after the evaluation, it's an all-day thing. It was all-day thing with us. Like, we were there all day. And my son was not very happy. Like, he was not participating, but, and then they send us home. And then we had to wait, like, another month, like a whole month after the date that we went to get the results. So the doctor sat down with us, and he said to us, let me rewind. To prepare my son for the evaluation, I went to the place more than once, so he can be comfortable in the environment instead of us just throwing him in there and he's like, what the heck is going on? Because he doesn't do good with transition. So a month later, the doctor told us what our son has, what exactly it was, and what we had to do, and what's best for him, all these programs, etc., etc., etc. So we found out that my son he has global developmental delay. And he's on the cusp of being in autism. It's called ASD. They don't say autistic anymore. It's ASD because ASD can be Asperger's, it can be autism, it can be sensory disorder. It's a lot, and you got to read about it. But so we were just sitting there like. So the doctor was really talking to me because I was the one who's really more like, look, this is what it is. This is what's going on. I'm with him all the time. This is what I'm observing, because my husband was working most of the time. So I was like, this is what I'm observing of my son, and these are my concerns. So everything, I was right on. The doctor was like, you're right on. He said, but he's not autistic. He said, so I need you to bring him back. So we have to take our son back, I think, next month. No. I'm sorry, September. October, he wants to reevaluate our son because he's saying it's a high possibility that our son is autistic. And the older he's getting, he's starting to do more like things that autistic children do. But don't get me wrong, he has a personality out of this world. But that's, the base on my son. But the more I'll talk to you guys, the more you'll hear me say more things, and you'll see him more. I think I did a glimpse of him on Sunday. He was in it telling me no, because he loves to tell me no. He thinks he's grown, but I love him to death. That's my son, Elijah. He's 3. Moving forward to my daughter. My daughter, she's my love of my life. That's like she's like almost like my best friend. My girl best friend. I have like a very good relationship with my daughter. I love her to death. I would do anything for her. She's the most intelligent, bright child I ever came across. I'm not just saying that because my daughter, I knew when I had her, and I tell her this story all the time, and she gets annoyed. Especially I tell her around her birthday. When I had her, I knew she was special. I knew she was a star. I knew she had some potential. It was just that, as a mother, your children. And she's just great. I don't really have anything that, like, even with the whole thing with my son, she was like, I talked to her about it. I talked to her about everything, and she was just on board. She was like, okay. I know she gets a little frustrated because it is overwhelming at times, being an older sibling to a younger sibling, and he's trying to take charge. But I give her kudos all the time. She's, you know, anything she wants. She's very, you know, good in school. She's athletic. You know, I can't wait till she goes to high school. I just can't wait to see her future, because I really admire my daughter. You know, I want her to look up to me, but I look up to her too. But yeah, I'm sorry, I'm about to get emotional because I love my daughter. Sorry, little tear. So yeah, you know, that's basically it with my kids. They keep me very busy. Like I said, this year was a little different than any year. And hopefully, you know, more. And you know, I don't really want to talk about my husband like that, because he really doesn't want to be a part of this. But yeah, my husband and I, we known each other for a very long time. Like most marriages go through things, they go through ups and downs. Before I got married, we went through a lot. You know, while we were married, we went through a lot. We're starting to smooth things to a better place. You know, it's all work. You know, basically, you know, you have to put the work into your marriage, and you have to trust each other and believe in one another. You know, that's my whole situation on marriage. I don't want to go into all the blah 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 about marriage, but yeah. And you know, like I said, at the time, like when I was going through all the things with my son and moving here and stuff, I disconnected myself from a lot of people. I got really, really, really depressed. And a part of me felt like no one could understand. I just blocked everybody out, because, you know, some people were encouraging and some people were like, oh, you know, no, I felt alone at some point when it came down to the situation with my son. But once I overcame that, I started coming back around, and you know, I wasn't as angry, because I blamed my husband for a while. It was just a lot, and you know, I had to say, like, you can't blame nobody. This is your son chose you, you chose him. You can't blame anybody. You just have to accept it. So I accepted. After a while, I just started accepting the situation with my son and starting to just get over stuff. Like, I just started, like, slowly coming back to who I was, slowly. And then, like, you know, my mom, she was very supportive. My dad was supportive, but my mom, like, plays a big advocate in my family. I don't mean to, like, throw my dad aside, because my dad he just is, like, more on the sideline type of person. He's not really, like, you know, my dad got his own problems, no offense, but he has his own issues. So I can't, you know, knock my dad. He is who he is, and that's who he is. And my mom is who she is too. But my mom, when I talk to her, you know, she listens to me, and if anything she could do, she'll look up stuff and she'll send me stuff. You know, she's been, like, very helpful. And my dad has too. He plays his part, you know, but sometimes the stuff he gives me I already know about, and it's just like, Dad, I already know. You know, I already know a lot of stuff that so he kind of a little behind on the ball game. But my son has made tremendous progress, period. My family has made tremendous progress. Like I said, I don't want to just be, like, talking about all the negative in my life, but, you know, I felt like that's what my life was based upon, a lot of negative. And I'm the type of person, if I'm going through some really negative shit, I don't want to bring people down into that shit. I try to keep my negative stuff away from people. And if it's really that point, so it's really bad for me, I just distance myself completely from everyone. And some people are like, that's bad. No, it's good, because, you know, you don't know what everybody's intentions are when it comes down to when you really going through stuff. And sometimes when you really in a bad place, sometimes people are really not going to be there for you, and you just got to go through it alone. And that's what I did. I just went through it alone, and I felt like nobody could understand. I'm not saying there's nobody out there that could relate to me, but the people that were in my life at that moment couldn't understand me, and they couldn't relate to me, and I felt like a lot of judgmentalness from some people. But, you know, at the end of the day, this is my family, and nobody will ever fuck with my family. I mean that from the bottom of my heart, and I don't mean to cuss, but my family is my life, and if I feel like you're harm or you're negative or you got a judgmental spirit about my family, you will not be a part of my life. Because I don't judge anybody and, you know, their beliefs or how they do things, or, you know, how, especially when it comes down to their children, their husbands. I don't really get involved in it. Like, I'm not a type of person to say, oh, well, you need to leave your husband because he did this to you. No, you gotta work that shit out. I'm not getting involved. I don't want to put my 2 cents in, because at the end of the day, that's your husband or that's your wife. I don't want to get involved in people's personal marital problems or how they raise their children. I feel like you can do whatever you want and however you want to do it. You have that right. And who am I to say that that's wrong? Because that's not wrong. So that's a part of, you know, me. That's just me. But why did I pick up this camera? I started wanting to vlog, and I have to go because I have to go pick up my son, and I don't want to vlog in the car. But I started saying to myself, like, look, I need to do something, and I have a lot to say, and I have a lot of things that I can talk to people about that people can relate to. If people want to leave comments, I'll engage in people. Like, I'm very good at that, and you know, I don't not like people. I like people, but I also like my space. That doesn't make sense, but I don't like to be, I like my time sometimes, but I also like, you know, if people want to talk to me, I'll talk to them. So I decided just to pick up a camera, because I'm sure there's somebody out here, you know, that can listen to me, watch my videos, relate to me, relate to my style, relate to, you know, how I am. I'm a mother, a wife, so I'm not all about being prissy glam all the time, because that's unrealistic in my life. But I do like to put on clothes. I do like to get dressed. I do like to do makeup, like I did today. I did a little small beat with my favorite lipstick from CoverGirl. I forget the name of it, but this is my favorite lipstick. And I don't even think they make it anymore. So I've been holding on to this lipstick because it's my favorite. But yeah, I hope whoever's watching, because I've been checking and I haven't been getting any subscribers. I have like 1 subscriber. No, I have 2, I think. No, I have 2. But, you know, I appreciate all the people that watch and subscribe. I'm not doing it for subscribes and likes. I'm just doing it because I feel like I'm a very humble person and I'm very genuine, and, you know, I am who I am. And like I said, I might sound a lot of times I'm not very enthusiastic, but I have like a dry sense of humor, and some people can relate to it and some people don't like it, and it's, you know, but don't be negative. You know, I'm not I can be very sensitive, but sometimes I can be insensitive and selfish like other people can be. I'm human like everybody else. So I hope you guys will continue to watch, and I hope you guys enjoy, and hopefully one of these days I can get a tripod because my poor hand hurts like crazy. But I hope you enjoy, and I will post this video today and my video from Sunday, but also I have my video for fear and overcoming your fear coming up. So I hope you guys watch, and thank you for watching, and I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.